Hello, hello, good morning. We're in simulcast again today. The reason for that, of course, is that it's raining, so I won't be able to walk about doing my thought for the day. So I thought I would do a simulcast, both of you, at the same time. Apologies to those that maybe watch both channels. But my thought for today comes more as a part of a deeper understanding of living here in the Philippines. You know, you don't have to go very far to discover so many expats who come here, meet a lady, decide to retire here, or even partially retire. The first thing they seem to do is they rush out and buy land. You know, you've got Mad Dogs and Englishmen. You've got, what's his name, Mark, is buying a house, something like that. Then you have Old Dog New Tricks, he's buying land, has all his problems with him and his wife trying to buy a block of land and get title. And so many of them do have that problem. Some say, oh, I had no problem. I have an Australian guy, interesting guy. Apparently he's been swindled out of his money. No, not here, but back in the US, back in Australia. He's lost nearly 200,000 of his superannuation because of a alleged dodgy guy who was managing as a fund manager. Oh, must be a nightmare to have lost all of your savings and then have to just rely upon a pension to survive. Well, in his case, he's under the pensionable age. So he's planning on going back now. He's running very short of money and having to go back to Australia to start again, to put together the money. And he's going to leave his wife and son here in a newly built basic house that they bought on some land, which is fine, but he's thinking of her. But I hope that she doesn't feel that she's now living in the sticks and away from her family too. But that's a little bit away from what I'm doing, but there is a connection. You know, even I built a home. You know, you cannot help but you look at the circumstances of your partner at the time, and it's very easy to get swept up into the idea that, yes, why not? We're in love, we're going to build a future together, and we build a home. And it's more than just a home for many of us. It's a project in the making. It's something to keep us active each day, keeping our mind focused on things that have an effect on our lives. So we go out there and we arrange for subdivision and what do they call it, survey and title, and you just hope that everything is being done correctly. Everyone's a master of their own destiny, I suppose. Some of you end up in hot water, some of you have an easy go at it. But inevitably what happens is you start building a home, start making a life, making a future for her and maybe a child, or maybe a child from a previous relationship that's gone sour, maybe with a Filipina. Whatever the reason, you're trying to create a secure base from which the relationship itself can progress without the worry of paying the rent man every month or every week. So the idea that somehow many Americans suggest that, and I understand they come from an idea of investment. Everything has a monetary value. Everything has to be for a financial reason. And I think that that's where it's lost in these videos. So many of the videos are anti-building houses for your partner. You know, not everybody goes sour. Not all deals go pear-shaped. Many, many do have successful relationships. But in the event, eventually, when we all go, either overseas because we no longer can afford to get ourselves hospitalized here, we go back for free or reduced cost of medical costs, and we leave behind a house and a woman, maybe with children, and hopefully not with your own children, because that must be really hard. Um, but the reality is you've left her with something that she can continue on, regardless of where you are on the planet or whether you die. So I don't see that investing in one's future isn't the same as investing in one's future for money. You know, it's true you can't own property. Well, you can and you can't. You know, they say you can own a condominium, but most Filipinos will even tell you that a condominium is a bottomless pit for money. You might have bought a condominium, but you've got all the management fees, the ongoing costs of any harebrained ideas that the owner of the building wants to do to the building, even if it's just maintenance, or maybe refurbishing of a foyer or something like that. You, as a owner of the condominium, will be contributing to that cost in your management fee. So it's like paying rent anyway. And as the years go by, that rent will go up and up and up. And if you leave a Filipino with a condominium, 9 times out of 10 it'll be sold at a major loss just to get out of the problem and maybe get a few pesos for her future somewhere else. Because she can't afford to pay that. Not every foreigner has a pension that is able to transfer even in part after you've died. Americans, yes, a lot of them do. Aren't they lucky? No, I'm not jealous. I just say that these things are in place at the moment. But guys, hold on to your saddle, because I'm sure that the world's governments are waking up to the fact that why should they be passing on a pension to another person in another country who's never paid tax in that country? And yet they're paying the price of you going overseas and looking after another national in another country after you've died. And I think that that will change in time. You know, if you die in Australia and you're on an old age pension, your wife dies or you die, you go back to a single person pension. You're still entitled to a pension, but it would actually be a slightly higher one because you're on your own. But if you're in Australia, then that's fair enough because you're looking after both Australian citizens. Same applies in New Zealand, and I believe the same applies in the UK. But back to what I'm talking about, and that is about building homes. You know, one of the biggest joys I had was actually getting the bulk of the construction carried out under my supervision to the standard that I was prepared to accept as safe and reasonable for that type of building. If there was a requirement to maybe make it a little bit more stable, a little bit more engineering wise, I would seek the advice of the engineer and we would up the engineering specs to meet my desired level. And that was part of hands-on experience in building everywhere. England, Australia and New Zealand, where I've been in my lifetime involved in construction. And it is so important that you are there when they're doing the work. You may well find it difficult getting them to follow your instructions, but if your wife can understand what you're saying and the reason for it, there's no reason why she can't explain that to the builders there on site. Because in the end, you're going to have a very strong and worthwhile building. You know, they don't have damp course here. They don't have a lot of things. They don't have wall ties. They don't. All of these things are somewhat alien to their building specs, and therefore, if you want to increase the strength of a building or the insulation of a building, go ahead and do it, because once the building is done, it's very hard, well, not impossible, but it's harder to install insulation at a later stage. I use what we would refer to in Australia or New Zealand as sisolation, which is literally like a baking aluminium with a reinforced fiberglass matting in between the sandwich, double coated. And it can be applied when the building is actually up. With a little bit of thought and effort, you can do it after the building is up. So you can install the insulation if it wasn't done at the start. Mine, it was done before they put the iron on. And the installers of the iron on the roof, or should I say the colour steel, were somewhat intrigued as to why we were doing it that way. But I stuck to my guns, and I wasn't going to be told by them, no, that's not the right way, you've got to make it tight. And I said, no, you have to let it overhang the rafters and the purlins, simply to allow a gap between that of the colour steel and the insulation. The whole idea is to create like a bubble effect. So it went like that across the roof underneath the colour steel. Now, of course, you can double up on that in the sense that you can also buy bats, or what they call fiberglass insulation. And it comes like a 4-inch or a 2-inch thick matting, of fiberglass matting. And it comes in a bale, and you can buy it here from suppliers in Manila, and I believe also in Cebu. So it does cost a bit more, but you can also then lay that over the ceiling area. Even when the ceiling is up, you've got an access point into the ceiling and a young guy that you instruct how to do it. And it's a pain in the ass to do, but once it's in there, you will notice a major difference in the heat inside the room. Again, a good example of how you can make the long-term investment a better one. But again, you know, it's down to everything. It's like even the paint that you use on the outside of the house. If you apply the same technology that you would have done overseas, like a penetrating sealer, an undercoat or a primer, and then certain number of top coats, you're going to end up with a much better finish, and one that's going to last a long time, and one that also can be power washed after without you ending up taking all the paint off. So many of the paints that they do put on the outside are water-based, and they don't all have the polymer in them that allows paint to dry as a skin over the surface. They end up over time to be very powdery. So when you do water blast it, you literally go back to the plaster underneath. So all of these things are important, but they all form part of your day-to-day maintenance, enjoyment in making your property look good, be worth the effort that you put into it, because we want to be proud of what we've built. We want to do the landscaping the way we want to do it. And again, it's a pride thing. Taking pride in what we do and what we can achieve is important. After all, if you're in somebody else's house, a rented house, or somebody who owns a house, and a Filipino who owns a house, you don't really have the same investment, so to speak. Again, that word investment. You don't have the same connection to the bricks and mortar as you would if you built it yourself. And after all, we're not around for that much longer, so therefore it keeps us busy and it keeps us active. And that's important, you know, a daily walk, eating well, cooking one's meals that we enjoy cooking, showing others how to make meals that maybe they never considered before. I mean, I often make myself chicken livers, onions, mashed potatoes, and ladles full of lovely brown beef gravy. Yum. But would they make that? Probably not. But when you do make it, you find that you're fighting at the table to get your fair share, because everybody else thinks what you've made is really quite yummy, along with curried cabbage. Nobody ever thought of that one either here, but it's another good one. Poached eggs is another one. You don't have to fry your eggs, you don't have to grill your eggs, you can poach them. What's wrong with an egg cup? You can buy them on Lazada or Shopee. Make yourself an egg in the morning and have some toast and New Zealand butter and Coles genuine made in Poland marmalade, and you'll have a little bit of what you've been used to, and it'll help to keep you in touch with reality. You've got Sky TV directly live here on the TV, on your smart TV, and therefore you can keep up with what is going on in Australia or in England and watch the chaos unfold. But the same goes, you can watch Fox or CNN or whatever you want to watch, so you can keep in touch with the rest of the world and still live your life in parallel to that of your Filipino who wants to watch the daily soaps, all the drama that they do. And I advise you all, if you want to have an idea how Filipinos think and how they seem to connect with, watch their soaps. You don't even need to understand the language, and some channels will give you, in a smart TV, English subtitles, so you will be able to follow what the drama is. But they all follow the bad lady or the bad man and the poor innocent young soul who is being manipulated and exploited by this rich family. And in the end, the drama unfolds week after week after week, and you're left there hanging with all the tears and the drama, which is really Philippine. It really is. It's the Spanish way, it's the Latino way, and it helps us to understand that when we find that kind of drama in our own environment, it's not their fault, mate. It's just the way they've been brought up. It's the way they are seen by their grandparents, the way they're taught by them, the way it's what they've been given. That's the reason they are the way they are. And don't think that just because you think you've told them something that they really will understand, because they just simply don't grasp where you're coming from. Why are you saying that? Why are you doing that? Because that's us. We talk that way. We explain things that way. And we have to get down on our knees sometimes and talk to the kids like we're in the kindergarten sometimes. And that takes patience and understanding. And I just hope that when you enjoy listening to motorbikes with no mufflers or very little, it's very hard to hear me. But I hope you've enjoyed watching, and don't forget to give us a thumbs up on both channels, Grumpy Brit in the Philippines and the British Expat in the Philippines. We're here each day, many times in some cases, and even live. So come and enjoy the channel, and I hope you enjoy this video this morning. God bless you all. Bye now.